Hello and welcome to the Two Russells podcast with one Russell. Unfortunately, Russell can't make this one today, but he's here in spirit. And it's nothing to do, of course, with the fact that today we see that eMove has been purchased off the shelf. But there's no claims for that. I'm sure it's a pure coincidence. But I'm delighted that we are on episode 13. So we've broken through the 12. We're heading towards episode 20 at pace, and today I welcome Simon Gatesy, to talk to us about opening the gates. So Simon, you're on a mission, aren't you? You're on a mission. Tell us about the mission that you're on.
Yeah, so my mission statement from starting my business about 18 months ago is to become the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents. And each day I look at my notepad, I read that statement, and at the end of the day, I go, have I moved the needle forward by 1% on that mission?
Fantastic. And to arrive at that place you are today, where did it all begin? So talk to us about your journey from, to where you are.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an estate agent. I'm sure, you would
Why?
have. Yeah, I honestly don't know. People always say that. Why? I always wanted to do it. And I went and did work experience in the summer of 2007. As you know, the market was booming. And I just fell in love with it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. My mum and dad tried to move me away from it. They got me some work experience in London. So I worked in Parliament. I worked for the law firm for the royal family. I did some amazing things.
Wow.
But estate agency was what I wanted to do. They made me do my A-levels in case it didn't work out and I wanted to go to uni. But throughout my whole A-level process, I had no interest in it. I wanted to be an agent. I was doing that part-time. And I think in the summer of 2009, I went full-time.
Wow. Okay. So where was that? Where was that located?
Michael Graham.
Okay.
So kind of dominant agent in the mid to high end across Bucks, Beds, Northants. Cover more areas than that. So kind of Warwickshire, Hertfordshire as well. But Bucks, Beds, Northants was the dominant area.
Right. So you started as that training negotiator and worked your way up through the ranks.
Yeah, so literally started from, as like most people do, T-boy. I was in charge of the stamps. I had a stamp drawer, collecting dry cleaning, collecting the
Croy
lunch.
machine?
The what?
I'm showing my age now.
What machine?
Not even the Croy machine. We used to have a Croy machine to
No idea what that is.
to do the window cards. Used to stick on there. Somebody out there must know what a Croy machine is.
Well, sorry, but I was just showing your age there, Russell. but even, I mean, in terms of the window cards, when I was a weekend assistant, my first job on a Saturday morning was to replace the window cards. So any changed prices or properties that are being sold, I'd update the negotiators folders as well. And in the 07, 08, before it crashed, you were changing window cards all the time because properties were selling.
Yeah.
Then when the market crashed, it was changing the price of the window card like every week because it just kept going down and down and down.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. And then I think at the start of 2015, I became a branch manager. So ran an office for half a dozen years. And I'm really proud to say that, we got a load of Google reviews at that office, most Google reviews across the dozen offices. And I made a profit every single year that I ran an office, which... it's still a short time. It's only half a dozen years, but to make a profit every year is something that can never be taken away from me.
And we were talking off camera that you were one of the youngest managers at Michael Graham. So how did that feel?
Yeah, it felt strange when you're in a boardroom for the monthly meeting and everyone around you is old enough to be your dad. And it was kind of, I always felt when I go into someone's living room, for example, if I was appraising your home, subconsciously or consciously, you'd be looking at me, I was 24 and I looked about 12. You'd be looking at me going, he should be in school. He should have had a permission slip to kind of leave the classroom to go to the loo or something. And someone might say, how long have you been an agent for? And that to me was indirectly saying, are you old enough to sell my house?
Yes, yeah.
And at 24, I'd go, I think I've been doing it about 8 years now. And they'd go, 8 years, blimey, he must be doing something right.
Yeah.
And if I would get other estate agents in town who might say, oh, that kid, he doesn't know what he's doing. And I'm saying, well, I've been doing it 8 years. I'm selling the most houses. I'm getting the best prices for my clients. I've got the most Google reviews in the town. Employ someone to sell your home who's got youth and energy on their side, rather than someone who's perhaps over the hill, having been doing it 20 years. And I love the saying of like, you might have 20 years of experience, but is it 1 year's experience 20 times over?
Yeah.
Whereas I was continuously trying to evolve.
And how did you do that? How were you feeding your knowledge? How were you growing in stature inside?
Do you know what? It's weird. I think a real big turning point for me just before I became a branch manager, the year before, The Wolf of Wall Street got released. Yeah. And I just was like mesmerized by that film, and I read all of Jordan Belfort's books,
Okay,
and
sell me
obviously,
that pen.
yeah, exactly. And I read a lot of the books.
Maybe not the drugs.
Yeah, avoid the the illegal parts.
Yeah.
But I was like, as much as he's done terrible things in terms of the sales aspect, I found it fascinating. And all of a sudden, every time I went to an airport, I would then see a book on
Okay.
something else. I was like, that's interesting. I'll read that. All of a sudden, I became a massive reader, whereas you couldn't get me out of education quick enough.
Right.
So I then started reading a lot. And then I was watching the Rightmove webinars that they put on through the Rightmove Hub. Started listening to podcasts. Started following certain people like Chris Voss, for example, author
Yeah.
of Never Split the
Yeah.
Difference, James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. And then my secretary, shout out to Helen Rumble, she's like my work mum. She introduced me to Matt Giggs. So
Okay.
she worked with Matt at Countrywide.
Right.
And she said, you should look at speaking to Matt. So I went and like
You were still working at Michael Graham at this time.
yeah. And I stalked Matt online, really liked what he was about. And I think to this day, Matt will correct me if I'm wrong, I'm still to this day the only person who's invested personally into training with him.
Okay.
So it's always been a business that's paid for it. I paid for it personally.
Right.
I took holiday to go do the training as well. And it was a bit of a kick when I didn't realise that you've got VAT on top of that, but I can't claim back when one person. But yeah, Matt realised straight away that I love my data. I'm like that side of the brain. But he then opened up my eyes to not everyone else is going to see it the way you do. So you've got to have the kind of storytelling.
Yeah.
And Matt sort of says now that Simon turns stats into stories.
Okay.
Which I think is a really powerful line, bringing like data to life. But yeah, and then Matt opened my eyes to all these other people across the industry, such as Stephen Brown, Perry Power, Sean Newman. The list could go on for ages. But I just found all of a sudden there was all these open-minded people across the industry that I could be learning from. And in those kind of final few years in a estate agency, were amazing because of the learnings I had from those people that I weren't getting inside the four walls.
And how were your employers at that time about that? Thinking, were they supportive of you taking outside coaching?
No, I wouldn't say so. And I feel really harsh saying that, but it is the reality. It was felt like, do you think you're better than us?
Okay.
Kind of thing. And what can you learn outside these four walls that you're not learning within it? But I felt like there was a ceiling and I was kind of breaking through it. And I don't want to come across as arrogant, but big fish in a small pond came to mind.
Yeah.
Whereas I was now a small fish in a very big pond. And I really wanted to better myself and grow within the company. I saw my end goal was to try and run that company one day, or be maybe second in command or something. But yeah, as time went on, I was maybe feeling a little bit disillusioned with that. I could see the rise of content marketing, personal brand, self-employed model was sort of flirting around.
Yeah.
I actually remember sitting down with Ben Taylor.
Okay.
And it was really interesting. He blew my mind on kind of an upside down triangle, saying at the moment the guy at the top's getting all the money and the neg at the bottom is seeing nothing.
Yeah.
It can be flipped reversed. So that really was an interesting moment for me, maybe a bit of a Jerry Maguire moment. And then Matt introduced me to Sam Hunter and Home Search.
Well, I was going to come on to the next journey.
Yeah, so Matt said, you love your data. I've come across this Sam guy. I signed up, I think I watched the webinar they did, signed up Home Search account. And at Home Search, I could see everything I was doing in its beta infancy phase. I think Sam reached out to me saying, who the hell are you? What's all this stuff you're doing? Went and had lunch with him in late 2019, appeared on his podcast. And then genuinely, this is how it happened. On the final day of January 2020, he rang me and he went, "G'day, mate, do you want a job?"
Right. Okay.
And I said, "Yeah, go on then." And I literally quit my job. I had no idea what I'd be paid, what I'd be doing, but I trusted him as a person. And yeah, at 1st of March 2020, I joined Home Search.
Okay. And took into that straight away. And how was those 3 years? So 3 years at Home Search?
Well, it was a strange one because it was going to be a hybrid role of working from home, working in Canary Wharf, and then out on the road. 2 or 3 weeks into that, we went into lockdown.
Right.
So that was a really weird experience. I was working most weekends when I was an agent. Then all of a sudden, lockdown came. There's no sport on TV.
Yeah.
I'm finishing work at 5 o'clock. and there's no one knew who I was. So like there was no urgent messages. So I get to 5 o'clock and be like, what do people do? At like 5, 6 o'clock on a weekday, and then weekends.
Read some books, hopefully. Get back into.
Yeah, but I did a lot of self development, kind of professionally and personally in that time. But the 3 years at Home Search was amazing. I learned probably more in the 3 years there than I did in my whole time as an estate agent.
Really?
And I think just because rather than being in the four walls of the same business, I was speaking to hundreds, if not thousands, of estate agents of all different shapes and sizes around the country. Independent, franchise, corporate, self-employed. So yeah, you learned a lot, but the tech side was really interesting because I didn't realize how far behind technologically estate agents are until I left a estate agency and went into
and start seeing the big wide world. It's a bit like myself. I was quite insular into looking at the four walls I was working in, although they were big four walls across the country. But when you break free of that, you see there is an awful lot of good stuff going on that you can take and improve. I just want to go back to the coaching point of view. Why do you think it is that agents in the UK maybe do not embrace a coach like those agents in Australia and America who almost you talk to any realtor overseas, the first thing they'll tell you is get a coach and then get a PA. Why do you think that isn't happening in UK agents?
Three things came to mind when you asked that question. One is probably fear of failure. I think in this country we're very like get good exam results, go to university, go work a 9 to 5, pay into a pension, retire, have a family, happy days. Whereas in America, it's more like the American dream, isn't it? Entrepreneurial. You go and set up a business in America, they support you. Whereas here, if you want to set up a business, people go, you crazy, what are you doing? If you go spend loads of money on a wedding or a holiday or a house, they go, oh, that's so cool. Do it on a business or stick to your 9 to 5. So I think fear of failure is a big thing. Ego is also one other. So
no one can teach me.
Yeah, a lot of estate agents are going to be egotistical. They've got to have some form of ego, otherwise they shouldn't really be an estate agent. Because you've got to have confidence to be a salesperson. And then the third point, I think that a lot of businesses want to keep you within that box. They want you to be good enough to help them progress. They don't want you to be so good that you can leave. So it's not being prioritized from the top down, I would say.
I also think a lot of people won't invest their personal money back into themselves, will they? In a workplace, because they're looking at, the company should teach me this, or the company should teach that. So you really did break a mold, investing in 2015 in yourself.
Yeah, and on that point, actually, I think it's a really good point because you might get a PT. I've had a golf coach when I was younger. When you're a kid,
you get one again.
Having a swimming coach, all sorts of different coaches you have maybe on the physical side of things. But when it comes to business or the mentality side, people don't do it. It's crazy. And I'd say with my podcast and the experience I had over the last 18 months running the business, find it on Apple and Spotify. The best agents I've come across have coaches or mentors. They don't think they know it all. And it really still blows my mind, like certain people where I'm like, wow, you're at the top of your game. Surely there's nothing you can learn. But they're still getting coached by people.
They're still learning, they're still coaching, they're still breaking free of the comfort zone, aren't they, to try and learn more and more and more.
Exactly.
And so Home Search is ticking along nicely, all going well, but in the back of your mind, there's an itch that you want to scratch.
Yeah, I think I was really, really happy at Home Search. I was treated fantastically well. I would run through brick walls for Sam. He's the best boss I'd ever had, and he's a fantastic leader. Agents, a lot of the time, I still get it today, would go, why are you still not an agent? And I think maybe at the time that Home Search came along, I was maybe falling out of love with agency because it had become quite volume based because fees hadn't gone up and costs had gone up and it was very transactional. And then towards the end of my time at Home Search, I'd started the podcast that was going quite well, started a Facebook group. I put myself all over like LinkedIn and stuff. And agents started saying, why don't you do your own thing? I would pay you to consult for me. Okay. You've got 13 years of estate agency experience. You've got a few years in the prop tech space. You know your data inside out. I'd pay you to come and see me. And I went, oh yeah, that's all right. It's all well and good saying that. But when I knock at your door, you're actually going to pay me. Then it got to a point where I was like, enough people have said they would pay me.
Yeah.
that if a certain percentage did, because I know most won't,
Yeah.
I think I might be able to pay my mortgage.
Okay.
And I think so it's quite a strange one. In December 2023, I decided to stop drinking.
Okay.
I'm back boozing now.
Right.
But I went December 22. So I went the whole of 2023, no alcohol.
Right.
The impact it had was ridiculous. So by the end of January 23, I'd quit my job. So within a month of no drinking, don't get me wrong, I wasn't like an absolute boozer
Yeah.
having social drinks. But within a month,
What made you decide that? Just I'll do dry January.
Well, I think from memory, you got paid the week before Christmas at Home Search. So that's a long old payday till
Yeah.
January.
Yeah.
And in December, there's lots of Christmas parties, there's lots of gatherings with friends and family. So a lot of Christmas time, you're perhaps feeling a bit worse for wear and not having much money after
Yeah.
you spent it all. And my birthday's in January as well, so I'm
Okay.
going to be spending money there. So I just decided to stop drinking, and I slept so much better. I was waking up earlier, had so much more clarity. And then, yeah, I think on the last Friday in January, I walked downstairs from my office at home and I said to Louise, my other half, I said, I'm going to quit on payday next week. She went, what happened? I went, don't know. I've just got to 5 o'clock on the Friday. And I went, now's the time.
Nice time to do it. Yeah. So that clarity of mind and that
Yeah.
confidence, but there must be a lot of fear there as well. And just for the audience watching this today, who are thinking, I'd love to break free. I'd love to go alone. And they say that your paycheck is the drug they give you to keep you away from your dreams, isn't it?
Yeah.
So big bold move. So how did that conversation go with your girlfriend?
She's been a massive supporter of mine from day one. I don't think I would have started the podcast. I wouldn't have started the Facebook group. I wouldn't have started my business without her. So she's been massively supportive. And I think that's a key thing. A lot of agents I've interviewed on the podcast, again, I say to them, God, you started your own business. What did your family say? They're incredibly supportive. So having that supportive group behind the scenes is great. What to say, you're average of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I made sure I was surrounding myself with the right people. But there's a lot of fear there. I think I was 6 months away from the end of a 2-year fix.
Okay.
And I was like, well, interest rates are rising.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to get a new mortgage because I won't have a pay slip or any accounts. And shout out to James Kendall, who's been a massive supporter of mine. He said, well, just speak to your mortgage broker, see what can happen. And spoke to a mortgage broker. My mortgage was with Santander.
Okay.
And he said, you can just do a switch rate with Santander. So I said, so you're telling me when my mortgage comes to an end in September, I think it was, I can click a button and my mortgage will renew? He said, yes, it will obviously be at a higher rate, which is going to be a kick in the stomach, but they will not look at any pay slips or accounts. I was like, oh, okay, well, because payments have risen, can I increase my term? He said, you don't want to change anything because then they start looking at things. Cool. Spoke to James. I said, oh, that's the last barrier out the way of me not starting a business. He went, well, what you got to lose then?
Right.
Because James and I had lunch in the December actually, and he said to me, mate, I'm telling you as a friend, you should go start your own thing. So again, huge shout out to James, who's been a client and a very good friend from day one. But yeah, the fear side of it, I think it's weird because I was fearful, but I put out posts on socials on, I think 5 o'clock on the 28th of February last year saying, I've left Home Search, I'm starting my own thing, not sure what it's going to be.
Hit me up.
Never look back.
Brilliant.
I thought the whole of March would be ringing my black book saying, do you remember you said you were going to pay me to work for you?
Yeah.
I didn't have to do any of that. I put that out there and people immediately started booking into my diary, started having conversations. And I've just made sure that I'm here, there and everywhere across social media.
That's where we first met, isn't it? Walking along Park Lane on the way to
Yes, of course it was.
the Negotiator Awards
Yeah.
or one of the events. And you were talking to me about, I'm here to open the gates. So,
Yeah.
Give us the elevator pitch, opening the gates. So what are you doing for agents now and how's it been going?
Yeah, so shout out to Matt Baldock for the name, because he said to me a long time ago, he was like, you should do something with your name.
Yeah.
And I put on my LinkedIn profile, like,
I'm going to shout out Neil Baldock, seeing as you're
yeah,
doing
Neil
lots
as well.
Seeing as you're doing lots of shout outs.
So about it must be 2.5 years ago, I put on my LinkedIn bio, opening the gates to more listings. And this is in my Home Search days. And someone messaged me and said, I'm intrigued to know how you open the gates to more listings. Mm-hmm. And that was a light bulb moment for me. Then Opening the Gates to More Listings podcast came along. The success of the podcast then has meant the business run. So yeah, opening the gates. So basically taking my 13 years of estate agency experience, 3 years in the prop tech sort of data space, and then interviewing over 100 people on the podcast, combine that all together, and then consulting agents on how to open the gates to more listings, increase market share, higher fees, luxury homes, more landlords. And it's doing that by using direct mail, data, social media, tech insights.
Fantastic. And how's it been going? So never
Yeah,
look back?
no, I think I'm unemployable now.
Okay.
Which, if this all goes belly up, that might be a bad thing to be on camera. if I'm coming to you for
recruitment, yeah,
recruitment.
yeah.
But no, amazingly well. I think I've worked with 150, 160 agents in the last 17 and a bit months at the time of recording, and I've got 175 5-star Google reviews.
Fantastic.
I've not spent a single penny on advertising or marketing, but I've made sure that I've gone to all the conferences, I've networked, I've done things like this, and I've been ever present across social media.
Well, yeah, make your network your net worth. You're definitely
Absolutely.
doing that.
Yeah.
And while we were just getting ready for this, we were talking about the coaches out there in the industry, and Glenn Sanford from EXP was here a few weeks ago, and he talked about a state agency is full of, in his words, dinosaurs teaching dinosaurs how to be dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And that's something you're passionate about, making sure that you don't become and the industry doesn't become. So elaborate on why your skill set is making a difference.
Yeah, as I said to you off air, I want to be really relatable. And I love all the coaches, mentors, trainers that I look up to. But let's say, for example, they've not been an agent for many, many years, and that will be me in some years to come. But those agents who are maybe 18, 19, or in their 20s, early 30s, someone who is, let's say, 50 or plus, and I'm not being ageist here, they're so far so far away from where they are, they're not that relatable. So I'm trying to say, look, this is someone who is of a younger generation, who's been an agent very recently, still immersed day to day. Like, I'm obsessed with a state agency, and it's even down to the approach of, like, what I'm wearing here. I've been, when I was an estate agent, clean shaven, no jewelry, no tattoos, no piercings, hair off the face. Whereas going into the prop tech world, I dressed down more and more as each day came. Like, it was very formal first day, and then got less and less. So coming here to say this is what I wear. My girlfriend said to me when
we all have a uniform, don't we?
Well, my girlfriend said to me last night when I was watching the Peter episode that I was saying to you about, and she saw how you and Russell were dressed very smart, and you do look very good. And she went, you should probably dress up a little bit more for that. And then actually turned to Peter, who's probably dressed not too dissimilar to me, but probably in more expensive clothes. And as you say, the uniform.
Yeah.
When I turn up, people are going to see the Opening the Gates hoodie, or the gilet, or the polo, the sweatshirt.
That personal brand.
Or this. Yeah, they're not going to see someone who is suited and booted the whole time. If that's what they want, if they want suited and booted, a PowerPoint presentation that's been going for a very, very long time, I'm not that person. But if you want someone who will show you some, tech, data, direct mail, social media in all different kind of directions, then I'm the guy for it.
Okay. Our industry is obviously going to go through some change over the next few years, and with the rise of self-employed and the mergers and acquisitions happening on a daily basis. So where do you see it going, Simon? Where do you see agency going over the next, let's say, 5 years?
So I've answered this question a couple of times recently. So it won't be the first time on camera that I'm saying this, but self-employed will continue to rise. I think that's a no-brainer. No-brainer will be more mergers and acquisitions. I think we keep seeing that happen. My really out of the box one is, I think a point will come, and I don't think it'll be successful, but I think there will be some agent who sets up they pay the seller.
Okay.
So, for example, I come into your home and I go, Russell, I will give you £500 to list your home. And you're thinking, I'm getting paid to put my house on the market. That's amazing. I'm hopefully going to get loads of bar inquiries come in, and I'm going to try and get mortgage and conveyancing referrals out of that.
Yeah.
Because at the
I
moment,
suppose it's a bit what Purple Bricks are trying to do, without charging, aren't they?
Exactly. So they're free now, right?
Yeah.
So if someone's going to charge £1,000 and thinking I'm going to be the cheapest agent, the worst thing you can do is be the second cheapest agent in your marketplace. Yeah. So they're going as the cheapest for free. Well, what is the next thing after free? It's paying someone. I'm not going to say that's going to be successful, because I think we've seen how the low cost models have not worked in the long run. But I do think there'll probably be someone who will be heavily backed or got investment behind them who will go, let's try and buy the market.
Yeah, I haven't got my statistician with me, but if I had, I'd be asking him how selling homes for free is going for Purple Bricks in their market share stats at the moment. But as I have got you as a statistician, how's that going for them? Do you think?
Well, interestingly, I think if you look at the data from the guys at 20A, 20CI, shout out to them, their data is incredible. A lot of flack that Purple Bricks do get is that, oh, well, if you pay someone up front or you pay cheap fees, they're going to be less likely to sell your house. I think, and 20A will be able to quote on this, I think they're selling like best part of 65, 70% of properties they bring to market, whereas the UK average is like 52, 53%. So actually, that shoots down that myth.
Yeah.
And then Ian Preston from Preston Baker,
Shout
some
out to
shout
Ian.
outs going here.
Yeah, I know
Really
you're going to have to get some cash in.
really, I've got to pay for my travel down here, right? The interesting thing he'd said at the FIA conference recently around they've got what is it? 60% of their sellers pay something up front, 20% pay everything up front, 20% do no sale, no fee.
Yeah.
The 60% who, the 20% who pay everything up front are the most likely to transact.
Yeah.
The 60% who pay something are the next most likely. No sale, no fee are the least likely to get to the finish line.
If they pay, they stay. They say,
Exactly.
Don't they? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Talk about the FIA. You've just taken on a new role with them as well recently. So, talk about the FIA for those who don't know.
Yes, I'm a non-exec director at the FIA. I had a great partnership with a lot of FIA agents in my home search days. I think when home search first kind of got going, it was when Graham launched the FIA. So Sam and him collaborated very well. And I've got a lot of time for Graham, who's been very, very kind to me and very supportive. And yeah, we met up and he said, would you like to become a non-exec? I think it was a no-brainer for both sides to help grow each business. And at the conference recently, I think Graham shared for 1% of all UK transactions go through an FIA agent, which is a great success within 5 years of a business starting. And then the bits I put together from 20A was showing an FIA agent is more likely to sell a property, do it quicker, less likely to fall through, and get a seller more money in their back pocket. So as much as I said, self-employed will grow, I think there's still a huge demand and space for the traditional high street independent agent who is keeping with the times.
There are some incredible independents across
some of the
country,
best in the
aren't
country.
they? Yeah. We were talking earlier about Make Mondays Matter and where that came from. So what do you do, Simon, to make your Mondays matter?
What's a question? I think I just start every weekday the same in terms of looking at that mission statement of trying to be the most useful person to follow for UK estate agents. And, I start the day by journaling. So writing things down that I'm grateful for, things that could have gone better. And that's been really, really helpful because even if you're having a bad day, let's say it's the worst Monday in the world, but I'm writing down, I've got a roof over my head, I'm looking forward to taking my dogs for a walk, or that I'm in good health. Like, doesn't matter what else is going on in the world. I'm very fortunate. Billions of people would swap places with me. It's very stoic, I would say, what I've just said. So I read the Daily Stoic every day. And that's been a big learning curve over the past half dozen years. I think I had maybe quite a negative outlook and maybe a fixed mindset previously, whereas I've really tried to adapt into more of a growth mindset.
Brilliant.
So having that growth mindset helps me with when it comes around to a Monday.
And you've got that thirst for knowledge still. So where are you going at the moment for your knowledge bank?
Listen to lots of podcasts, watch lots of podcast webinars. So I've watched every single episode of this. It's been really interesting hearing what you guys have to say, the people that you interview. And what I really try and do is listen or watch people who I wouldn't typically go to.
Okay.
So if I listen to Diary CEO or High Performance Podcast, which are two go-tos for me, it'd be so easy for me to go, I'm going to go listen to that professional footballer.
Yeah, or the golfer.
But it's like, that's a person who, founded Airbnb or Spotify or Brewdog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's interesting. I've not heard their story. I'm going to go hear what they have to say.
One of the best ones I listened on there was the Kelly Jones one of the Stereophonics. It was incredible.
I've not heard that. So
have a listen. A great story about getting the right people around you and how you have to jettison some people on your journey to success, even though they might be your best friends. I won't spoil it for you, but it's well worth a listen. So if I'm an aspiring estate agent like you were back when you were 16, 17, how would you encourage people to get into the industry now? What would you be saying to those 18-year-old Simon Gates? What would you be recommending them to do?
Yeah, got a good question. Fall in love with delayed gratification. I think the next generation past me in society these days want everything delivered instantly.
Well, they get it delivered instantly, don't they?
What
That's
is
the
that?
problem.
Deliveroo, Uber Eats,
Yeah.
whether it's Amazon, Airbnb, Tinder, you literally be swiping, and you've
Yeah.
got a date, you got a book, you got a holiday. So I think that's a difficulty for them. But if they're coming in at 18 and thinking within 6 months they're going to start running a branch and they're going to be earning super money and driving nice cars, that might be what Instagram is showing you, but that's not the case. So if you're 18, go and find a decent the corporates get a real bashing, but their training is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, some of the very best agents in the country would have started at larger organizations, had some great training. So go to a corporate or an independent, learn your trade, learn your craft, work your way up the ladder, but don't just rely on your employer. Do go and seek out, again, reading books, listening to podcasts, watching webinars, because it's a two-way street.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for Opening the Gates? What's on the agenda for the next 2 to 3 years?
I think someone who's so data heavy should have like a 1, 2, 3, 5 year plan. But actually, every day, like I've said earlier, is just keep looking at that book. What am I doing each day to be on that mission of becoming a more useful person, the most useful person to follow for UK agents? And that's just the road that I'm on, and I'm not steering away from that. I think that, people have gone, oh, let's look here, let's look there, but tunnel focus. There's a great, I don't know where I'm stealing this from, and I'm slightly adding on to it, and I'm digressing, but a rocking horse is always in motion, but it's never moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
A racing horse has blinkers on. It can't see sideways. It's going for the finish line. So blinkers are on, just moving forward with that.
But you don't know what that finish line is yet.
Don't know what a finish line is. And I think that's the exciting thing. So if you look at that conversation you had with Peter, the value of Mortgage Advice Bureau is phenomenal. But I think those kind of people like him, they're never satisfied. Like they let's say sell a business for £1 billion. They're sat on a yacht. And then after a week they go, is that it?
What's next?
What's next? Yeah.
Yeah. How many followers are we up to now, Simon?
Followers, across which platform?
Across your Facebook, your
Oh
Facebook
God,
group.
I think Facebook group. I think it's got 1,100 followers. I think my LinkedIn.
1,100 agents. That's a pretty sizable number.
And I think the key thing here as well for agents or anyone in the property world watching, listening to this, is that don't get too obsessed with the numbers, because I've got the 1,100 Facebook, I think 1,300 LinkedIn newsletter subscribers. I started that about a month ago. The podcast gets like a couple of hundred listeners a week on average. It's not amazing, but this is like die-hard listenership.
Yeah.
And I've been able to start a business 6 months after the podcast with only 200 listeners. So if you're out there going, I've only got a few hundred followers on my estate agency page.
You only need one to get started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I'm an agent, I want to open the gates. How do I get in touch with you?
You'll find me online. So join the Facebook group, Opening the Gates to More Listings. You'll find me on Instagram, Opening the Gates. You'll find me on LinkedIn as well.
Brilliant. Simon, thank you very much for coming on. Look forward to the next episode. Episode 14 will be coming up very shortly. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from me, and it should be goodbye from him.